So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live session, we will be discussing Indian Express newspaper. So this is the front page of the newspaper. Here you can see citing health issues, Kejriwal asked Supreme Court to extend his interim bail by 1 week. You know that Mr. Kejriwal has been given this bail for the campaigning of the elections, etc. So that was to come to an end, but then he has asked Supreme Court to extend the bail. That is not important for us because we have already talked about the provisions related to PMLA and we have had a discussion about this, so we will not go into details of this. Then there was this cyclone which we have already talked about, that is cyclone Remal. There is this in-depth program which has been done on that, okay, and because of which there has been this 6 people who has died because of the cyclone, okay, as it has hit the West Bengal coast. Now coming to the outline of the program, today we will be discussing, we will start with the practice question and then we will move to the important articles. Article 1 will be menstrual hygiene day, so that is 28th of May, that is today, okay, so we will be talking about that. Then heat waves and monsoon relief. So you must have witnessed these heat waves when you are in Delhi. You might feel it is quite hot this time, as well as in Rajasthan, Punjab, some areas these heat alert has been issued by the IMD, okay. So we will talk about these heat waves. We'll see why this time we are facing this warmness, or you can say that much of heat, okay. And then we will see that monsoon relief, okay. You know that 1st of June is the time when monsoon will hit on the Kerala coast. So what kind of relief it will bring? We will see what is the trend, what will be the, you can say, amount of monsoon which India would witness this time, okay. Then forecasting the solar storms. We have talked about the solar storms few days back related to auroras, and there was this you can say some impact of these auroras has been felt in the lower latitudes as well, okay. So now there is this particular satellites which has been sent by, you can say, USA, okay. So we'll be talking about that, and we'll also talk about then another satellite which has been sent by USA, that is CubeSat, okay. So we will be talking about that. This is not the name of the satellite, it is basically the category of a satellite, okay. With the name it is clear that it will be having a shape of a cube, okay, and they are very small in size, that is why these are CubeSat, okay. Other than that, there will be news from around the world, and then there will be 2 articles or 1 article for your own read, and then we'll finish with the practice question. So let's start with the practice question which was given to you in the last class. Which one of the following makes a tool with a stick to scrape insects from a hole in a tree or a log of wood? Fishing cat, orangutan, otter, and sloth bear, okay. We have talked about animal behavior yesterday as well. There was this article which was talking about orangutans being using these medical herbs, okay, chewing the, you can say, leaves of a vine plant and then putting it on the flesh wound. So basically in that regard we have taken this question that there are certain animal behavior which might be there in news, or because of certain specific reasons they can be asked by UPSC. One of them is orangutan. Orangutan has been asked by UPSC. This is the exact question which has been asked by UPSC, and here you can say by a common logic, if you think, you might get an answer from this, because they are saying that there is this particular species which is making a tool so that from their to scrape the insect from the body or the logs of you can say wood. Now the thing is, they are making a tool, that means that their hands, their palms, they will be well developed, okay. So that is what orangutan has, okay. So that is about it. Now moving further and starting with the day. This article as per se is an editorial, but the thing is, here we will be talking about this because this is an article which needs some kind of attention of us, okay, when we are talking about the periods or the menstruations. So this is, and you can say, the time we should be aware about it, we should talk about it, okay. This is a natural biological process, and still there are many stigmas, or you can say taboos, which are attached to it, so we should come out of them. So that is necessary for us as male as well as for a female to understand that it is just a natural biological process, and we should sympathize with the you can say menstruators, okay. Now here you can say menstrual hygiene day, that is 28th of May every year since 2014 started, okay. Here you can say the observance of the menstrual hygiene day, MS day, on May 28th since 2014 is significant, as it estimated that 500 million females lack access to adequate facilities for menstrual hygiene management. When we are talking about May 2022, there is a report of World Bank that found that the quarter of the adolescent girls in India did not attend hold on. Okay. So World Bank report says that there is a, you can say, a significant amount of girls, or you can say a quarter of adolescent girls in India, they did not receive any kind of, or they are not going to schools because there are not, you can say, hygiene facilities are not available over there. You can say toilets or the washrooms are not available over there. So that is why during menstruation they cannot go to school because of the lack of the adequate toilets. Okay. Now, despite being a natural biological process experienced by half of the world's population, there is a significant misinformation and stigma around it. Okay, there are various taboos, various stigma and misinformations which are attached to it, and it is the time when we should come out of them. We should generate, you can say, awareness regarding this. Okay, so that our daughters, our sisters can go to schools, they can be educated, they can do, or you can say, they can utilize their full potential. Okay. Now, there are various taboos and stigmas which are attached to it. That is basically considered as a roadblock in millions of women worldwide reaching their full potential by hindering their education, future opportunities, compromising their health, impeding their socio-economic progresses. Okay, so that is why there was this particular MH day, to make sure that we are going in a right path. Okay, to make sure that there is some kind of awareness which is generated. This is right time we should talk about periods. We should be aware about it for both male as well as female. For, you can say, the male partners, they should understand the need of the female at that point of time. Okay, now here you can see, while MHD promotes body literacy, autonomy alongside gender equality in the line of comprehensive menstrual health education, which is crucial for both boys as well as girls. Okay, for girls, understanding their body and managing their menstrual safety and hygienically is essential for their health and well-being. For boys, learning about menstruation fosters empathy and help break down gender-based misconception and bias. Okay, so to break down these bias, these misconceptions which are, you know, prevalent in the society, that is why this awareness, this education is quite important, because education is the only thing with which we can generate awareness. Okay, access to the menstrual products, okay, that is another critical issue when we are talking about countries like India or any developing countries. Okay, government is working on that lines. There are various schemes related to that. Okay, then the day transcends hygiene. It is about this particular day, MH day, this transcends hygiene. It is about equality, dignity and the fundamental human rights of the girls and women. Raising awareness is on the critical issue and taking action to support the change needed. That is basically a roadmap to the period friendly world. Okay, so ultimately the crux of the matter is that whatever stigmas, whatever taboos which are attached to this particular process, okay, that should be removed. That is the time we start talking about it. Okay, many of us have been taught for so long never to talk about periods openly. This is a taboo and stigma around the menstruation that has impacted the education, health, social equality or equity of the menstruators, despite it being a very natural biological process. Okay, so now it is time that we break the taboos. Now, why I have taken these questions, because this particular article, because this is a hurdle for a female, for a girl, for a woman. That is basically a hurdle, because that you know, many a times in their education, in their, you can say, jobs, it is considered as an obstruction. Okay, now we should be more inclusive about our policies which we are making. Okay, so that is why we should be aware about such things. We should be empathizing about these things. Okay, now we can move further to the next article, that is basically heat wave condition set to persist till Thursday. Now, when we are talking about the conditions or the kind of you can say you know, heat which we are witnessing right now, there are various alerts which has been given by the IMD. There are heat waves everywhere. In Rajasthan, there are certain areas where you can experience a temperature up to 54 to 55 degrees Celsius. Okay, even in Delhi, when we are talking about this mark of temperature has crossed 45 degrees Celsius. So all these things are basically there. Mostly we will see that there are various reasons which are attached to it, like global warming is there, climate change is there, extreme events are happening, pollution is there, all these things are there. But again, what is specifically happening this time, so we will talk about that. There are 2-3 things which we will be discussing over here. Okay, So data from IMD says that there has been an increase in the humidity levels over the past 10 summers. How land surface temperature are cooling down to a smaller extent at the night. Okay, when we are talking about the temperature change in the day and in the night, there is a significant difference. When we are talking about the areas like Rajasthan, these are the continental areas, these are deserts. Okay, so there you will see that the temperature rises very fast and that cools down very fast too. Okay, so there is a drastic, or you can say, change in the day and night temperature, or you can say change in the temperature which was there in the midday around 2 or 3 p.m. and then in the morning, if you are talking about 3 to 4 a.m., then there will be a significant change in the temperature. Now that temperature earlier, let's say if it was nearly 12 to 13 degree or 12 to 18 degrees Celsius, now that change has reduced. Okay, so we can say that the the heat which has been radiated by earth is actually changing now. Okay, now coming back to the article, here they are saying that land surface temperature are cooling down to a smaller extent. Earlier there was this gap was high, now that gap is basically smaller. Okay, here you can say, and how built up area has increased. Okay, now heat wave conditions, which are maximum temperature of 45.1 degrees Celsius. The highest maximum temperature recorded during the day was 48.8 degrees Celsius in the northwestern Delhi's Mungeshpur. Okay, so basically that is the highest temperature which has been recorded. When we are talking about average temperature, or you can say maximum temperature in Delhi overall, that was 45.1 degrees Celsius. Now that is the kind of heat we are experiencing right now. Okay, and IMD is saying that it will persist till Thursday. Okay, so there are 2-3 things which they have said, that the nature of heat is changing with a significant increase in the relative humidity over the past 10 summers. Now what is the role of humidity over here? Let's say when we are talking about our body has its own mechanism, okay, through which it will release heat. Like that is when we are talking about the sweating is one of the mechanism through which body will try to manage the temperature of its own, and so that you can say whenever you are sweating you will feel this cooling effect. Okay, but that will be happening when you can say in the environment humidity is less. Okay, now let's see, humidity is less, that means that in environment there is less water. Now when you are sweating, so you will be when you are your body is cooling down itself, then there will be sweating. But if humidity is high, there is already a moisture which is present outside your body in the environment, then this you can say process will be slowed. This you will feel that there is less sweating, because of which your body will feel this heat stress. Okay, and that will lead to some kind of health problems as well. Okay, so basically if humidity is increasing, that means that your body's process or body's mechanism is not performing fine, and because of which there can be heat stress. Okay, that is why this particular thing, that humidity is significant to discuss over here. So now there is a significant increase in the relative humidity over the past 10 summers. When we are talking about the last 10 seasons of summers, there has been an increase in the humidity. Okay, so March to August as summer, we are considering, when we are talking about the seasons, we consider March to August as a summer month, and pre-monsoon, that is March to May, and after monsoon, that is June to August, because 1st June is the time when onset of monsoon is there. Okay, now Delhi have been 8% more humid than when we are talking about the past records. Okay, here you can say in the last 10 summers, here you can say from 2014 to 23, Delhi have been 8% more humid. That means that humidity has increased, and ultimately you are sweating less and your body is going through a heat stress. Okay, now relative humidity for the summers from 2001 to 2010 was 52.5%, and then when we are talking about 2023, it is 60.9%. okay, so that is the kind of change we have experienced here. Now combination of high heat and humidity has compromised the sweating, the body's main cooling mechanism. The evaporation of the sweating from the skin cools our bodies, but higher humidity levels limits this natural cooling. Okay, so there will be sweating, and then there will be evaporation of this sweat from your body. Ultimately there will be a cooling effect, but because of the moisture which is already present in the atmosphere, that evaporation will not happen, and ultimately you will not be feeling cooling down effect, or the mechanism of your body is hindered because of the moisture which is present in the environment, and ultimately you will feel this heat stress over here. Okay, As a result, people can suffer heat stress and illness, and the consequence can be fatal. Now there is this heat index. Heat index is an index or a measure of how hot it feels when humidity and temperature are both factored in. When we are talking about temperature, temperature is the, you can say, measure of you can say warmness or coolness that is there, okay. But what is the impact of humidity is there, whatever impact of humidity is there with respect to the temperature, or you can say combining the effect of the temperature as well as the humidity, that can be seen by the heat index over here, okay. Now they factor, both the factors are factored in over here. It is considered that the heat index of 41 degrees Celsius is dangerous for the human health, okay. Now this particular fact is quite important for your examination, so please note it down. Delhi is not cooling down at night. During the summers of 2001 to 2010, the land surface temperature would drop by 12.3 degrees on the average from the daytime to peak. When we are talking about the change in the temperature, earlier they used to say that when we are talking about the day temperature, the maximum temperature in the day, and the night minimum temperature, maximum temperature of the day and the minimum temperature of the night, they are saying that in Delhi in the last 10 seasons it was nearly, the difference in the temperature was nearly 12 degrees Celsius, okay. Now they are saying that that difference is basically now reducing, and in 2023 that difference was 9.8 degrees Celsius, okay. So that means that whatever heat we are losing, that is actually reducing over here, okay. Now hot nights are dangerous as midday peak temperature, people get little chance to recover from the daytime heat if temperature remains high overnight, okay. Now if the temperature change, or you can say if the maximum temperature or the high temperature is there for a longer time, you will not get a chance to recover from that particular heat stress, okay. So that is why it is even more difficult. Now there are two things because of which we are facing this problem of heat, or you can say heat waves. One is your temperature, which is increasing, no doubt, okay, that is because of the global warming or other factors. Then second is basically your humidity, which is also increasing and which is hampering the bodily mechanisms of sweating and ultimately the cooling down mechanism of the body, okay. So these are the two factors because of which we are seeing that there are heat wave condition or there are hotter nights. All these things are happening because of these two things. One is temperature, second is humidity, okay. Now this article is done. Now we can move further. Short relief from heat waves. Soon monsoon to hit Kerala in 5 days, okay. So we have recently talked about this particular you can say cyclone which was there, that is Remal, okay. This Remal cyclone was there, and which was in news, and we have talked about it, and ultimately we will see that there are these rainfalls and etc. which are already happening, okay. So let's see, a temporary relief from the prevailing heat wave condition is expected at the end of this month, but temperatures are likely to rise again after few days in June. Now because of the onset of the monsoon on the 1st of June, there are chances that there will be a relief in the heat, but again after some time there will be this increase in the temperature, okay. Now when we are talking about the onset of monsoon, here you can say there is this diagram which is given over here. So when we are talking about India's mainland, okay, so this is the time where it hits the Kerala coast, that is June 1st, okay. And this time we are hoping that the IMD is saying that the monsoon is on time, and so that is why we will be seeing that before 1st June or on the 1st June we will be seeing the onset of monsoon on the Kerala coast, okay. So on the India mainland we receive monsoon, or the onset of monsoon is happening on the Kerala coast, that is on June of 1st, okay. Otherwise speaking, on the territory of India, the whole territory if we consider, that is including Andaman and Nicobar, okay, so that will be on the 20th of May, okay. So that is the time, on 20th of May or around this time there will be an onset of monsoon. So if we see that if monsoon hits the Indian territory first, that is Andaman and Nicobar, and when we are talking about the monsoon hit the India mainland, that is basically on Kerala, that is 1st of June, okay. Now after that it will travel northwards, here you can say that is 1st June, then 5 June, 10 June, 15 June, okay. Then 15 then there will be July, and in Rajasthan we will be facing from July 1 to July 15. When we are talking about Delhi will be seeing monsoon in the time of around, you can say, end of the June, okay. So that is the normal dates of the onset of the monsoon, so which you can remember. specifically Kerala and Andaman and Nicobar part. Okay. Now coming to this part here, IMD said that the southwest monsoon was progressing normally. Conditions were suitable for the onset on the Kerala coast in the next 5 days. Okay, so that is there. Normal heat wave days are over north and northwest India. Now we have seen that there are various, you can say, heat waves alert has been given to Rajasthan, Punjab, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh and northern Madhya Pradesh. This is the area which is facing these heat waves recently. The above normal maximum temperature, warm and the humid nights shall prevail over these states. So which we have just talked about, that there will be warm nights, then there will be humid nights, which we have already talked about. This are there, and then the temperature in the, or you can say difference in the temperature of the day and night will be not much. Okay. Now southwest monsoon was progressing normally and the conditions were suitable for its onset on the Kerala coast in the next 5 days. Normal dates for the monsoons on the Kerala coast is basically June 1, which we have already discussed. Advancement of the monsoon in the Andaman was on May 19th. Okay, so May 19th has happened. As I told you, that will be 19th or 20th May. So that is there. So please remember this part as well. Now severe cyclone Ramel, which hits the West Bengal and the Bangladesh coast on Sunday night, will not have any adverse impact on the advancement of the southwestern monsoon. Now this will not have any adverse impact because these are two different you can say systems, which one is moving over here and second is starting from this side. Okay, so this will not impact that. Now despite being on the land for over 18 hours, Ramel sustained the wind speed of a cyclonic storms and was headed towards the northeastern India, Meghalaya, Assam and neighboring areas. So we can say that in the upcoming time we will also see some kind of rainfall in the Meghalaya and Assam area, because this cyclone actually it has came from this side and hitting the Bangladesh coast and now moving towards this direction. Okay, so that is there. Now the monsoon advances over the southern peninsular India this year is likely to be normal. So we are saying that the monsoon on the southern peninsula will be normal, and it was forecasted in April that rainfall this year will be 106% of the long period average. Long period average is basically, you can say, 1971 to 2020. Okay, and that is 80.6 mm. Okay, so nearly 88 centimeter is the you can say long period average. We are saying that there will be a little more rainfall than that. Okay, except for the part of Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, northern Uttarakhand, Odisha, southern Jharkhand and southern Chhattisgarh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, the rest of the country will receive above normal rainfall. Okay, so basically these are the areas. When we are talking about Jammu and Ladakh, here you know that this is the part of the cold desert. Okay, then the areas over here, northern Uttarakhand, etc., and then there are certain areas like you can say this southern Jharkhand, Odisha and Chhattisgarh, Assam, Manipur. These will be receiving a little less rainfall, but again the overall rainfall, if we see that will be more than normal this time. Okay, now moving further, here you can say new finding may improve the ability to forecast the solar storms. Okay, I have discussed the solar storms various times. Hold on a second. Okay, so we have discussed these solar storms various times. Now we will be talking about this particular thing because here there was this Soho Sun Observatory is there. Okay, so because of which they have actually come up with certain you can say new facts which are actually changing the way we see at these solar storms. Earlier it was seen that when we are talking about the sun, these solar storms are something which are originating from the interior of the sun. Okay, and then moving towards the you can say other planets like Earth, etc. But with this particular Soho, they have actually realized that this is not coming all the way from the interior, it is coming from the outer surface only. Okay, so the way we see at them, that will totally change. Okay, now sun has their own magnetic field. Okay, because there are various gases and etc. which are there and which is basically revolving in the core of the sun. So that is one thing because of which we generate this magnetic field. When we are talking about Earth, Earth also has a magnetic field. You know that the core of Earth is mostly made of iron, nickel, etc., and there is liquid also, and that is why we have this magnetic field as well. Okay, so these magnetic fields of sun and Earth, these are basically something which are related to the solar storms. These are something which is basically making them, you know, when we are talking about the aurora, borealis, etc., which we have seen recently, all these things are phenomena that are basically related to the magnetic field. Okay, now let's talk about this particular article. Sun's magnetic field, which causes solar storms like the one which hit the Earth this month and produced beautiful auroras, may originate at the shallower depth in the star's interior than the previously thought. Okay, previously it was thought that in the, you know, from the suns, it is from somewhere deep from the interior. Now we are saying that it is not very deep from the interior, it is basically at the shallower depths. Okay, now here you can say sun's outer 30% consists of an ocean of churning gases plunging more than 210,000 kilometers below the solar surface. Okay, so that is the kind of depth. Till then there is these gases are which is present over there. Now the new research, latest theoretical model to observation by the sun observing SOHO spacecraft, provides strong evidence that its magnetic field is generated near top of its ocean, less than 5% inwards, or the 32,000 kilometers. Okay, out of this particular 210,000 kilometer below, that is basically the you can say sun's outer 30% consists of an ocean. Okay, and that is nearly that much of depth, and we are saying that this is not generating at this particular depth, it is generating at somewhere around 32,000 kilometers depth. Okay, so that is here nearly you can say less than 5% inwards. Okay, then moving further, you can say that the finding may improve the ability to forecast sun storm or solar storms and guard against the potential damage to the electricity grids, radio communications, and the orbiting satellites. Okay, now why these solar storms are important for us, or why tracking these solar storms is important for us? Because obviously when there is an emissions which is coming from the sun, these storms are coming from the sun, there are various ions etc. which are present in that, and when they interact with the Earth's atmosphere, there are various things which are happening. Meanwhile, they are also interacting with the, you can say, the satellites which are placed in the orbits. Okay, and they might disturb them, they might have some kind of, you can say, communication problems etc., and that is why we have to make sure that something like this is to be predicted earlier, so that there can be certain steps can be taken to ensure that there is a communication is installed over there, and then we are talking about this electric grids etc., that are not being impacted, so ultimately the regular life is not impacted. Okay, so that is why it is important for us to ensure that the electricity grids, radio communication, and the orbiting satellites are not getting much impacted by this. Most stars have magnetic field apparently generated by the motion of the super hot gases inside them. We are saying that sun has an ocean of churning gases. Okay, so that is why we have sun has a magnetic field. We say that even in the Earth's core we have a liquid which is moving around inside the Earth. That is why Earth has its own magnetic field. Okay, similarly there are mostly the stars and the planets, they have these magnetic fields of their own. This is basically the sun's ever changing magnetic field drives the formation of the sunspots. Okay, shifting dark patches on the surface and the trigger solar flares that blast hot charged particle into the space. Okay, now these sunspots are nothing but on the sun, on the surface of the sun there are certain small spots. These are basically dark spots. Okay, these are dark spots, and these dark spots are relatively colder. These are relatively colder in nature. They are not, you can say, cold, but relatively they have a cooler temperature than the, you can say, nearby areas. Okay, now that is having a solar cycle, time to time these spots keep changing, and during this particular process there are certain emissions which are done by these spots. That is basically, you can say that this triggers the solar flares that blast hot charged particle into space. Now these blasted charged particle which is coming out from the, you can say, these sunspots, these are moving towards the other planets. Okay, one of them is Earth. Okay, and when they are moving towards Earth, these are charged particle, again these are positive or negative ions over here, and when they come to the magnetic field of the Earth. Okay, so there is this tendency that since they are charged particles, they will come to the, because of the magnetic field, they will concentrate towards the poles. Okay, and that is why in the areas of poles you will feel these particular phenomena of auroras. Okay, you will see that there are certain kind of colors which has been emitted on the poles in certain cases, and that is because when these charged particles are moving towards pole and there is this atmosphere, Earth's atmosphere is there, there are various gases in that atmosphere. Now these charged particles are basically interacting with these gases which are present over there, and ultimately that will emit some kind of energy, and that is we see them in the form of these colors. Okay, so that is basically your auroras. The mechanism of the generation of the sun's magnetic field has been unsolved problem in the theoretical physics, and that is why we are going for such experiments, so that we can solve the mystery of this unsolved when we are talking about the particle physics. Okay, so that is about this particular article. Here we have talked about solar storms, we have talked about sunspots, we have talked about SOHO. You can go and read about SOHO, what is SOHO and which country has this particular project. Okay, now moving further, there is another article which is related to this, how tiny satellites will track heat losses from the Earth's pole. Okay, you know that there is this you can say solar budget or solar heat budget when we are talking about. Okay, so there is this Earth's energy budget. Okay, so Earth energy budget when we are talking about, so basically we are saying that whatever insolation is coming from sun, okay, and whatever Earth is emitting or radiating back, okay, so that is basically an Earth's energy budget. Okay, to understand Earth's energy budget or to understand the impact of climate change, etc., we should know that various part of the Earth, how they basically have the impact on this Earth budget, or you can say Earth energy budget. So when we are talking about the poles, you know that there are this albedo effect, etc., are there. Okay, other than that, when we are talking about the radiations which are going back because of the greenhouse gases, because of the water vapors which are present, because of the clouds, because of the albedo impact, all these things are basically impacting this Earth energy budget. Okay, again I'm telling you, energy budget is nothing but the insolation whatever is coming from the sun and whatever Earth is radiating back. Okay, and this that you can say the budget which is created out of that, that would be your you can say Earth's energy budget. Now coming to the article, now NASA has launched one of 2 climate satellites that will study the heat emissions at the poles of the Earth. Okay, why it is important? Because obviously because of the climate change, etc., we want to prepare for certain things, we want to read the impact of various phenomena which are happening on the pole. So that is one of the reason. Now shoebox size cube satellites, that is CubeSat. As I told you, this is a category of satellite, that is CubeSats. Now CubeSats are nothing but basically these are the satellites of 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. That is basically 1 unit. Okay, that is 1 U or 1 unit. Okay, now this CubeSat is basically it gives an idea that it will have a shape of a cube. Okay, now considering this particular 1 unit, that satellite size can be different. Okay, that can go from your 1 unit to 2 unit to 3 unit to 5 unit, 6 unit. Okay, so like that it can increase, okay, up to 12 units as well. So if it is up to 12 units, we can say that it is a CubeSat. Okay, since because CubeSat name is there because of the concise size of it. Okay, now the satellite which NASA has sent, is the name of that satellite is basically Pre-Fire. Now please remember this particular name, they can directly ask you in the question. Okay, the full form is the Polar Radiating Energy in the Far Infrared Experiment. Okay, Polar Radiant Energy in the Far Infrared Experiment. So that is Pre-Fire, which has been launched by NASA. Okay, now coming to the article over here, on 25th May, NASA launched one of the 2 climate satellites that will study heat emissions at the pole of the Earth. Shoebox sized cube satellites which are there, this is known as CubeSat, which measure how much of the heat Arctic and the Antarctic, the 2 of the coldest region on the Earth, radiate into space and how influence the planet's climate. Okay, now they are saying that these Antarctic and the Arctic, these are the 2 poles, or you can say these are the polar areas which are radiating the heat and how it is impacting the environment. They will see, and to actually see how much heat is radiated, so they have actually put one you can say thermal infrared spectrometer. Thermal infrared spectrometer. Now obviously spectrometer is to watch something, then thermal, that is related to temperature, and infrared, it is the way through which they will capture the thermal energy. Okay, so that is why thermal infrared spectrometer, which they will be putting on the this particular Pre-Fire. Okay, now Pre-fire polar radiant energy in the far infrared experiment was jointly developed by NASA and the University of the Wisconsin Madison. Okay, so please remember this if you can. What are CubeSat? As I already told you, these are the miniature satellites which are having this one unit, that is 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. Okay, so that is considered as one unit or one U, and that size can be different for various satellites. And when we are talking about this particular one unit, that would be a little bit bigger than the Rubik's cube. Okay, now CubeSat can be of 1.5 unit, 2 units, 3 unit, or you can say 6 unit or 12 units. Okay, depending on the requirement. Owing to their low cost and the mass in comparison to the traditional satellites, they begin to be put in the orbit for the technology demonstration, scientific research, and the commercial purposes. These are smaller in size, so these are basically, you can say, affordable when we are considering the research and development on the big satellite or the traditional satellites. Okay, that is why they are being used for the research purposes. Okay, pre-fire satellite is a 6 unit CubeSat. Okay, so here you can say pre-fire, it is a 6 unit CubeSat. Okay. Now solar planets, there are solar panels which are basically fitted on that will basically fulfill the requirement of the energy when we are talking about this particular satellite, which will power the satellite near polar orbit, that is 525 kilometers. So this is placed in the near polar orbit. Okay. Now, why measuring heat emissions at the earth pole is important? As I told you, that is because of the various phenomena, extreme events which are happening, climate change, global warming, all these things are related to this rise in the temperature or the heat emissions, etc., and that is why it is important to read for that. Okay, now that is basically related to your Earth's energy budget. Temperature and the climate on the Earth are determined by the difference between the amount of heat incoming to the Earth from the sun and the amount of the heat which is going out into the space. Okay, whatever is coming from the sun and whatever going out from the Earth, that is basically your Earth energy budget. A large amount of the heat radiates from the Arctic and the Antarctic is emitted as far as infrared radiations. Okay, however, there is currently no way to measure this type of energy, resulting a gap in the knowledge about the planet's energy budget. We don't know how much amount is radiated by the Arctic and the Antarctic region, and that is why we are trying to calculate it so that we can remove this gap from the calculation of the energy budget of the Earth. Okay, how will the pre-fire mission help? Okay, simple, that will actually, with this spectrometer, that is thermal infrared spectrometer, they will try to record the heat emitted by the particular area, and they will fill in the gap which is created in the Earth energy budget. Okay, so that is about this pre-fire and the satellite CubeSat, which has been launched by NASA and along with the University of Wisconsin Madison. Okay, so now we can move further to the next article. There is this over 2000 people buried in Papua New Guinea landslide, government seeks global help. Okay, per se this news article is not important for our exam point of view. Okay, there are 2000 people who has been the victim of this you can say landslide which has happened in Papua New Guinea. But since this particular event has happened and it is an event of global importance, and because nearly 2000 lives we have lost over here, and UN or you can say the international body is saying that there are 670 people has been killed by it, and this you can say 2000 people, that is the data which has been given by the Papua New Guinea government. Okay, so they have asked for help from the global community. Now for us, the location of this particular island becomes important over here. Now here you can see that this is Australia, this is the part of Indonesia. You know that here when we are talking about this particular island, it is divided between two parts. One is related to Papua, that is basically with Indonesia, and second here it is the you can say orange part over here, you can see that is Papua New Guinea. The capital is Port Moresby, and when you are talking about the location over here, there are two things which is important for you to understand. That one side it has Solomon Islands or Solomon Sea as well. Okay, there is this Solomon Sea which is there in this side, and then this side there is this Coral Sea. Okay, so these two things are important for you, so please remember that it is on the north of Australia. Okay, now moving further to the next article, which is related to the recent visit which has happened between the three countries, that is Chinese Premier hails restart in the ties with US allies, that is South Korea and Japan. Okay, so these leaders has met and they has talked about certain things. We will see a restart in the relation with the Japan and South Korea. This particular Chinese Premier has said about something about that, as he met their leaders for the first three-way talks in 4 years. Okay, You know that there was this time after the trade war which started between USA and China. There was the particular time for which China and USA did not go for any kind of talk. Recently USA has gone for these talks, and now these allied countries are also going for it. Now the first three-way talks in 4 years, agreeing to revive trade and the security dialogues hampered by the global tensions. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol and Chinese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Seoul with the efforts to revitalize the three-party free trade agreement negotiations stalled since 2019. Okay, now called for comprehensive resumptions in the cooperation between the Asia's economic powerhouses. Now these are the countries which are considered Asia's economic powerhouses. But for this to happen, politics should be separated from the economic and the trade issues. When we are talking about China, China has this you can say conception that whenever there are disputes between, or the political dispute between two countries, these political disputes should be separate from the economic dispute. In the case of India, when we are talking about this border dispute with India, China has border dispute with India. Whenever we say that there should be less of imports from the China, or whenever we go for anti-dumping duty, etc., so China says that the economic tension should be away from the political ones. Okay, so that is what China says, and similar things China has said in that in this regard as well. So this should be separated from the economic and the trade issues, and to the protectionism and the decoupling of the supply chain. Here meeting itself is being seen as a mark of progress in the relation between the three countries. The China, Japan, South Korea trilateral summit is about reducing the frictions, then reshaping the more about you can say reducing the friction than to reshaping the geopolitics. Okay, here you can say these three countries formalizes more regular communication at the top levels and collaborate on climate change, conservation, health, trade, international peace and other areas. It is to boost people to people exchanges to 40 million by 2030 through exchanges in the culture, tourism and the education. So basically here we can say that the Western allies, when we are talking about the US allies specifically, China and South Korea, they are also now trying to engage with China. With this particular article we can say that. Now last part, that is for your own read, there is this article, AI in legal cases, what the court has said. Okay, so basically what is happening is that where there are various cases which has happened wherein court has actually taken help, or they have actually mentioned that they have taken help from the Google and the ChatGPT. Okay, now what they have said that to go for the research they have to take help of these two things. Now the here the debate is that use of ChatGPT by the Manipur High Court, that is what the news is about. Now the debate is that should we go for such things or not, because ChatGPT etc. are not very well developed tools. Okay, so in this particular case over here, that they have said that court have been rather cautious about the use of AI for the judicial work. Okay, so ultimately the overall opinion is that till now we should be reluctant while using the AI. Okay, but for the research purpose etc., for going for certain important kind of fact checking or something like that, they can go for it, and they have done that. So that is the debate over here. You can go through this particular article. Okay, now we can move to the last part, that is basically your practice question. Where does the monsoon strike first on the territory of India? Kerala, Lakshadweep, Tamil Nadu, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay, so we have already talked about it, so you can attempt this question and answer in the comment box. So with that I would like to take your leave, and if you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel. Thank you.